Hey y'all, it's Laura and welcome to Bookies and Cookies. Today I'll be showing you guys the blackout poetry I've been doing in A Gathering of Shadow by V.E. Schwab's. So, before somebody comes after me like, how dare you deface and cross out and black out a book, it fell in a river. Books aren't supposed to look like this. It is thicker up here than it is down here because it's waterlogged and water damaged. Books are not supposed to look and or sound like this. Basically, this happened because I was doing a Bookstagram shoot and my aesthetic got the better of me. A split second before this actually falls into the river, I just was thinking, I was like, Bookstagram is very dangerous, taking our books outside and by waterfalls. You could say I'm an adventurer, exploring, and I'm so, brave. And the next thing I know, this just gravity, it gets off kilter. And this just plunges down into the river. This happened back in October, and then in November I was going to Y'all Fest and I was actually going to see Victoria Schwab, so I made sure to read Vicious before I met her. And so I could show her the pictures of what happened, and I'm really sorry, and oh yeah, I completely dropped your book in a river. So the main character in Vicious, Victor Vale, is obsessed with blackout poetry. It's his calling card, if you will. It's his trademark. So I was like, well, this isn't Vicious, but I could do blackout poetry in it. So I officially started doing blackout poetry in this in about January, and I knew I'd be meeting Victoria Schwab on her book tour for Conjuring of Light in February, so I was actually able to show her then when I met her. It was really cute, it was really adorable. She was fangirling over my book and over me, and it made me really happy. And then she's like, can you tweet these? Can you Instagram these? Can you share these ASAP? So she retweeted my thread, and it was really good. So I do have a thread if you want to check out all of it. It's linked down below and all of that. So yeah, I will show you everything I've written thus far and show you my kind of creative process or the reasoning behind how I do my blackout poetry. So we're gonna go through the poetry I've written, quote unquote, so far, and then I'll do a poem to show you kind of my creative process, if you will. I've been really enjoying this because the words are already there. I just need to kind of chisel it down, kind of like a sculptor, to the words I want to use. So I've tabbed all the poems I've done so I can easily find them, and I have a little glossary in the back of orange is canon, so things that actually relate to the darker shades of magic characters. Pink is semi-autobiographical. I wasn't able to fit the ale, so it's semi-autobiographic. So things that kind of are very me at the moment. Green are my favorites I've done, yellow are miscellaneous. And if anyone ever wants to write a blackout poem in the book for me, I'll have blue for you. So I'll probably bring this to bookish events. So if you want to write a blackout poem, an initial and autograph it, you're more than welcome to. The more the merrier. Note the river dirt that's inside the book. All you need to do blackout poetry is some sort of written medium, like a mass market paperbacks for 25 cents or 50 cents at used bookstores. So it could be one of your favorites, it could be a book you don't even care about, but it's a great place to get started working on your word craft. If you have multiples of the same copy of a book, for example, because of all the different special editions, you could do one of those. For example, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 copies of the Crown hardback because they come in different colors, and there's different exclusive fan art and stories inside of it. Now, I only need one readable copy, so one of these I will deface and another I will do blackout poetry in one day. So you don't need to go out and buy a brand new book just to do blackout poetry or defacing in it. Anything you have works. And some Sharpies. Here's the epigraph. I also date down in the bottom when I wrote it, just about. Some of the early ones I didn't do that, but it gives me a kind of idea of where my mind was at certain times. So kind of like a journal, except it's completely out of order, but at least the date order is there. Balance is power. So that's kind of more about the actual magic and power in the book, so that's why it's orange. As we go through this, I'll be sure to mention the specific page and also the chapter so you can kind of get an idea of which page I used for the erasure to get down to the poem I created. So page 1, I broke it down into the moonless center of the universe, tonight in my hands. And I had a lot of other pretty phrases because there's so many beautiful phrases about the stars and the silence and the sky and the sapphires, and I kept all those, and eventually I cut those out. So I usually leave a lot more open and not crossed out, and then go through and keep crossing until I'm happy with it. So this isn't my favorite, but that's why it's in yellow miscellaneous, just one to do, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. The next is the first page of chapter 2, Prince at Large, page 55, and I broke it down into you must be wild, you must be chaos. And I love this because this is a scene where Kel is telling himself you must not be wild, you must not be chaos, you must control yourself, and I completely flip that on its head. So this is why it's one of my favorites. I just am be who you are, no matter what. We were on to page 69 because I'm super duper mature. I wrote this the end of February, so it's a little later, and it's in chapter 2 of part 2, Prince at Large. So that's where I am. The poem is, his nonsense is pain, his heart was bright light. And I really like the rhyming of the bright light, the mention of like heart and pain and feelings, and this is about somebody because of course it is, because I only ever write when I'm falling in or out of love, so that's where my brain and heart is at. So somebody was being nonsensical and sending me 69 jokes, so I went to page 69 and wrote this poem and crossed it off as retaliation because of all their dumb 69 jokes. So there you go, more you know. Next on page 99, or the first page of part 3, Changing Tides, I wrote this also the end of February. The garden alone in the night, a girl called out and was a stranger. And this is kind of one more like the narrative storytelling rather than the feeling emotional ones. So it's something you could easily like see and picture in your mind as soon as you start to read it. So I really liked this one, of just the imagery of it all. Next up on page 157, or page 1 of part 4, London's Calling. His golden king, not a magician. And there is an A there, but I kind of went a little too far. So this one's orange, it's canon, it's kind of alluding to Rye of how he's the golden child, he's the golden boy, he's the golden prince. He will be a golden king one day, but he's not a magician because he doesn't have magic powers, and that's the whole thing with him. Anyways, next on page 205, or the first page of part 5, Royal Welcome. This is semi-autobiographical, attention with intensity. I'm told I'm a lot, I'm told I'm very extra and too much, so that's very like on brand with like my personality of being like way too much and way too intense and way too like paying attention to small little details, which is why I really like this one. Next on page 255, or the first page of part 6, Imposters, heart-grown stories grew desperate. It's miscellaneous, but it should be like one of my favorites because I haven't quite figured out what this fully means to me or as a poem, but that not even stories, but maybe heart-grown hopes grew desperate, of hoping and stories of your heart, like what you want, like your daydreams, your desires, your dreams, your goals grew desperate because they weren't happening yet. So this also is semi-autobiographical, even though it's not listed as such. Next on page 307, it's still in chapter 1 of part 7, Intersections. It's a scene with Ryan Alucard, so it's orange, it's part of canon, I suppose. Alucard removed his flirtatious, fidgeting lips. You are mine. And this started out, there was a lot more about like Rye and stuff down here, and I just crossed it out. I really love the alliteration of flirtatious fidgeting. Like, I am obsessed with that. That's going in one of my books one day when I write a book. I'm never gonna write a book, like, let's be honest. Like, all of the ideas are just like themes that I want to talk about, but not any of the characters. So like, I'm more of a theme writer of like, oh, I want to talk about unrequited love, and I would like to talk about feeling left out of things and being somebody's second or third choice and stuff like that. And I don't really have a plot with that, I just want to talk about the feelings. But anyways, flirtatious fidgeting is definitely going in anything I write because that's hella awesome, and I wrote that right before I met Victoria because I'm like, you need to read this about flirtatious fidgeting lips because I can't, it's too much. Next is page 341, or the first page of part 8, The Essen Tuck. A scream of dreams, the singed sound infinite. So we have some rhyme schemes, we have some alliteration. I just really like that it's just a quick, short sentence or a phrase of like the singed fire of the nightmare and the dreams and the flames, but it goes on forever. I don't even know how to explain it. You either get my Blackout poetry or you don't, and sometimes I don't even get it, but I really like this one. Next is page 395, or the first page of part 9, Collision Course. I also wrote this the end of February when I was feeling a lot of shit. Like, holy crap. Yo, the like last week in February, I was all over the place. God, if we did like a behind the scenes of my life of all the things I didn't share on social media, because that was like this was like right before my social media break, so this was right before I posted the Carve the Mark video. So I was feeling a lot in my personal life, in my booktube life, and whatever, and so like that's why I haven't been on the internet, because I haven't been able to handle my feelings. So this pretty much explains it, that it's one of my favorites, and it's semi-autobiographical. Everything hurt. Like, I don't care that those words are right next to each other. I blacked out everything else. That is all that remains. That is all that matters. Everything hurt. Like, not just like one thing or two things hurt, like everything hurt. Next up, page 445, or the first page of part 10, Catastrophe. The magic of something more. So it just kind of has like this hopeful feeling, because the problem with this is, I haven't quite shown, it bleeds through. So it's not very easy to do a page front and back. So you can do like a 2-page spread, but you can't really do the ones around it. Here is a 2-page spread. It is pages 460 and 461, chapter 3 of part 10, Catastrophe. And I wrote this middle of March when I still was having a lot of feelings. I'm not fine. And so if you see on the pages here, it kind of bleeds through, not as much as you think, but like right here, there isn't any text, so it doesn't matter. And then on this side, it bleeds through. So like you could kind of do it, but then it would bleed out onto this side and then leave things there. So like I just prefer not to do front and back pages if I can help it. This poem was really important to me because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted it to be. I just was like, let's get, like, I just flipped to a page, it spoke to me, I'm like, let's just do this page, like why not, like I'm already here. And so I just kept crossing out things, and then I saw the word fine, and I was like, I always think about how I say I'm fine, when I never really mean that I am fine. So once I saw that there's the I'm, and then there was a not in between it, I was like, there we go, done. Like nothing else on this page could even grab me at this point. Some days I am fine, and some days I'm not fine, and we go with them as they come. But I'm really excited for the day where I can cross out this not, or at least do like maybe white out or something over it, maybe a highlight of like some days I'm fine and some days I'm not fine, and that both are okay and both are part of life and part of what I'm going through and part of my journey, my truth, living my truth. But I feel like that could be a really healing day if I found a day when I was like, I am completely fine, like nothing is bothering me. Like that day is never gonna actually happen, but it's a nice thing to hope for, to be able to think of a day when I will be able to cross out the not and truly say I'm fine without lying about it. And then my last one, it is the last 2 pages of the book, so hopefully I don't need to like mark what those are. That's page 508, 509. I wrote this sometime in January. This is the first one I ever like fully finished, I think. Actually, this is the first one I ever started because I knew I wanted to keep the I am enough. And then I kind of played around with the other words, and so there was a lot more written here, and I keep crossing it out, and I sometimes still want to cross out parts of this, so we'll see if I ever choose to. So it is, she was a prayer, a different magic, strange, she knew, madness wasn't a choice, in her mind, alone, alone, I am enough. So I kind of like the repetition of alone, alone, I am, but I kind of also don't. So some days I kind of want to cross it out, and some days I don't. So I haven't decided yet, because like I won't be able to undo the crossing out if I choose to. But for now, I'm okay with the duplications. Yeah, so that's my Blackout poetry. I will link below the entire thread I have on Twitter of like close-up images of every single poem, and I'll keep adding to that as I create more poems, so check that out please, for like the likes and the retweets and the exposure and the engagement, if you will. Be sure to like tweet me any pictures of any Blackout poetry you do. You can also tag me in your posts on Instagram or even Snapchat me. I am Bookies and Cookies on all 3 because I actually got the username I wanted for once in my entire life. My name is Lauren. This has been Bookies and Cookies. I post videos sometimes. We're working on a schedule. Yeah, we're working on a schedule one day. I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm like the Will Ferrell in Talladega Nights. I love each and every one of you, and I hope you never forget that you are loved, you are valued, and you matter. And remember that it's okay to drop books in rivers, because then you get a new creative outlet from them. Thanks, y'all.